friends, and welcome to Sustainable Prepping, your home for fear-free emergency preparedness and a sustainable life. My name is Brecky, and today we are back for another video in the month of September. September is Emergency Preparedness Month here in the United States, and so I am back in action making videos for you every week this month. We're going to be covering big picture topics in preparedness rather than focusing on specific how-tos. I'll be doing how-tos, but this month I wanted to give you the big bird's eye view of an emergency preparedness plan, system, principles, so that you can jump in and start getting the biggest bang for your proverbial buck. If you're new here, I want to say a great big welcome. If you're not new, I want to say welcome back. This is your home for fear-free emergency preparedness, for sustainable living, for feminist homemaking, and for all of this without the fear-mongering, the political conspiracies, and a lot of political rhetoric. We're going to be axing all of that from our conversations and instead having empowering conversations about how we're going to move forward as a society with more and more potential for catastrophes, for more and more dangerous situations with our weather and our global climate change, and for more and more situations in which communities are going to need to be resilient. Every topic I talk about is really going to be based on resiliency, and we're going to explore all of that together. But for today, I am bringing you a special topic, one that is close to my heart, and that is emergency preparedness for the LGBTQIA community. Now, this is something that I personally am very passionate about as a member of that community and as somebody who knows that often LGBTQIA individuals are more marginalized, have less access to resources, and in catastrophes may become scapegoated. Now, for the most part, the basic principles of emergency preparedness apply across the board, regardless of your self-identity, your sexual orientation, your gender presentation, your romantic orientation. These do not necessarily change the 5 fundamentals of preparedness. If you don't know the 5 fundamentals of preparedness, definitely check this video. It will walk you through my basic foundational principles. Very easy to go ahead and get started. And there is going to be a free downloadable worksheet right here that you can find in the description that goes over the 5 fundamental principles. Quick review: they are food and water storage, first aid and medication, fuel and illumination, finances, and feces or sanitation. These fundamental principles are going to see you through about 90% of the potential catastrophes you could face. So go watch that video if you missed it. It will walk you through them. Download the totally free checklist. It will be in the description. But everybody, regardless of your sexual orientation and your gender presentation, are going to benefit from those 5 fundamental principles. Today, I want to talk about 4 additional areas that the LGBTQIA community should consider as they began putting together their emergency preparedness plan and preps. These are things that I believe are going to be essentially important to the LGBTQIA community or to other marginalized communities, and are things that our community should pay closer attention to. The first area that I believe the LGBTQIA community should pay special attention to is first aid and medication. For many members of the LGBTQIA community, there are particular medications that help them live their best lives. For example, the trans community will often be taking hormone suppressants or other hormone drugs in order to live into the body that they most feel comfortable in. These may become compromised, they may be unavailable, or they may be restricted after an emergency. They may not be seen as essential medications. So if the supply lines are down, we need to start having plans in place for our essential medications. Now, this could also just be something as simple as heart medication, right? This could be something as simple as blood pressure medication. It's not necessarily related to self-presentation. But for the LGBTQIA community, getting those medications, potentially having to be seen by an unfamiliar doctor who doesn't know your history, could become threatening. It could not be safe to go see an unfamiliar doctor. I want to encourage the LGBTQIA community to plan ahead for your prescription medications, to work with your doctor if you have a supportive doctor, to get 1 week, 2 weeks, a month ahead on your essentials. This means in a catastrophe, you don't have to worry about getting your medication, and you don't have to worry about seeing a doctor that doesn't know you, your family, and your history. This is, again, an area that I think the LGBTQIA community is particularly sensitive to. This also means having a plan in place if your medication is unavailable. Do you need to stock up on menstrual products even if you don't normally need them? This would of course be a worst case scenario. And the benefit of menstrual pads is that they can be used for blood clotting because they are quite absorbent, so they can have a dual nature. But these are the sorts of things that the LGBTQIA community may need to keep their eyes on as you plan your own personal preparedness plan, as you put together a network of preparedness plans that the non-LGBTQIA community, the heterosexual community, the cisgender community may not be thinking about. So having a plan in place for getting medication, getting ahead on medication, and what to do if you cannot get medication. Have a plan in place for approaching doctors or medical facilities that don't know you and you don't know what their support is. Thinking about these now means that if there's a catastrophe, you know what the next step is. It is not blindsiding you. It is not surprising you. You can stay calm and confident because you have a plan in place. Our second area of focus for the LGBTQIA community is going to be communication. Now, communication is important for everyone. Again, all of these are important regardless of your self-identification. However, I do believe that because the LGBTQIA community is marginalized, having a communication plan in place between groups of LGBTQIA identifying communities is key. Now, I am not personally well-versed in ham radio and other radio operative systems, but I do think that LGBTQIA communities should have a communications plan that includes non-internet, non-cellular, non-data-based communications. And for the most part, that is going to mean relying on some form of radio, shortwave radio, longwave radio, getting people certified, having your call signs identified, having a plan in place. Again, this is not my personal area of specialty. This is an area that I am growing in. One of my sons is quite interested in ham radio, so we together are learning about it. But a communication plan network system is going to be key. This could be between individuals or found family units. This could be between mutual aid groups across a region. There could be plans already in place, so please check in with your local mutual aid network or other advocacy organization. But in addition to having access to things like weather reports and news reports about civil unrest or what roads are open, it's important that we have communication between groups. This allows folks to know if there are hot zones or cold zones, if there are areas that are more or less receptive to LGBTQIA individuals, where resources that are friendly may be located. So having a communication plan in place between individuals and between larger groups is really, really essential for the LGBTQIA community. So if you're putting plans together, especially if you're looking at more than just a family unit, this should be very high priority for you. The third recommendation is one that I hate to include, but unfortunately is about the state of the world, and that is going to be personal security. On this channel, you will not hear me recommending firearms or discussing firearms at length. I was a sharpshooter in high school. I'm very familiar with weaponry. I'm very familiar with firearms. I'm very familiar with gun culture. And I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about them, not all negative and not all positive, so please don't put me in a box. But whether or not to include firearms in particular in your personal safety plan is a very personal one. And if you are not prepared to look someone in the eye and shoot them, that firearm is more likely to be used against you. So, regardless of what you feel about firearms, creating a personal safety plan that does or does not include firearms is something that all LGBTQIA individuals should be considering as they are putting together their emergency preparedness plan. You don't have to rely on firearms for personal safety. You can have solar-powered or battery-powered floodlights, sirens, other personal protective gear. You can learn some hand-to-hand combat situations. You can have mutual networks. Plugging into your local affinity group, your local advocacy group, your local mutual aid group can let you know what plans are already in place and what systems are already in place to protect the LGBTQIA community in times of crisis. The truth is, right now in the United States in particular, the trans community is being targeted as scapegoats. For the conservative side of the spectrum, this whole community is being labeled as groomers and monsters and whatever language they want to use. And In a time of crisis, looking for a scapegoat is going to go up. Looking for someone to blame for our ills is going to go up. And that means instances of violence are likely to increase. Having a personal protection plan, whether that includes firearms, whether that includes safety gear, whether that includes monitoring your home, is something to consider. I don't want to fearmonger. That is not what I want. I do want you to feel calm and confident. But part of that calm and confident is facing the realities that we are likely to see. And in my opinion, based on the social climate in 2023, the trans community in particular and the LGBTQIA community as a whole is going to increase more instances of violence, particularly in the aftermath of a catastrophe, because people are going to be motivated to find a scapegoat. Having a plan for protection in place, particularly if you affiliate with a affinity group or a mutual aid group, and working together to create a safety plan for the whole community, is going to be an important element of your emergency preparedness plan. Y'all, but seriously, it doesn't have to be weaponry. It can be adding bars to windows, special locks, things that you may not need every day, but you can add in the event of an emergency. Think about it this way. It could be because you're sheltering in your home, you want your home to be extra safe. So what do you need to add to your home safety in order to make your home an extra safe space if you're gonna be there all the time? This is what I want you to think about. Think about it holistically. We want to create a holistic safety net. So plug into your local and regional affinity bodies, LGBTQIA advocacy bodies, and see what their plans are. They may have some great resources and advice, or local businesses or instructors that can help you create your own personal safety plan. My fourth and final area that LGBTQIA individuals and communities should focus on as they create their own emergency plan is going to be skills. There is a lot of emphasis in the prepping community on gear. We love stuff. We love gear. We love solar power. We love backpacks. We love generators. We love new gadgets. And that's all great. But stuff can be stolen. Stuff can be lost. Stuff can be broken. I think that the LGBTQIA community would benefit from an increase in skills. Now, there's a lot of skill sets present, and you know who's in your family unit, you know who's in your extended network, you know who's in your local network. So taking a poll of what skills are present and beginning to fill in those skill gaps is something I think you should take seriously as a part of your emergency preparedness plan. This could be carpentry, or learning some basic mechanics, a little bit of basic solar installation, or being an electrician. This could be first aid, getting more robust first aid, or herbal remedies and foraging. There's so many skills that can be put to use in the aftermath of a catastrophe. It can be simple things like learning how to use a chainsaw and practicing with it for debris removal, but it can be more intense things like how to deal with waste management. Having these skills in place means that in the event of a major long-term catastrophe, you have a network of people with a variety of skills. That means you have more safe people to lean into, and you don't have to open your family unit up to strangers who may or may not be supportive or potentially cause threat or violence. The problem when you are a part of a minority community is you don't know who that stranger is and whether or not they are safe for you. And in a catastrophe where you desperately need someone to come and fix your electrical sockets, you desperately need someone to come and hook up your solar, you desperately need someone to come and offer you medical aid, you may not have the choice of discerning who that person is. You need them. They could be a threat and you just don't know it. So having a variety of skill sets present, picking skill sets that you harness inside your family, inside your found family units, are one way to create a more robust emergency plan. This isn't to make you afraid. This isn't to keep you from participating in the greater society. That is not what I want. But I do want you to think about, if you are in a grid down situation, watch the news for Idalia if you're watching this when it comes out in September 2023. Watch the news of what is most needed in that post-catastrophe cleanup scenario. Think about what skills you have present and what you're lacking. And can you, a member of your family, a member of your extended community, learn some of these skills so that you have a little bit more breadth? You may not be able to have a lot of depth, but you could have some breadth. And that just gives you a little bit of insulation on who you're having to have come into your shelter in place, your safe space in the aftermath of a catastrophe. Friends, like always, I do not want you to feel afraid. That is not the goal here. The goal here is empowerment. It is calm and confidence. But it's also the sober reality that we will face crisis. With our global climate changing, with the intensity of storms increasing, we will be facing more and more catastrophes. And that is just from weather. That doesn't even lean into man-made catastrophes, civil unrest, all sorts of things that could go wrong, supply lines that go down, health emergencies that happen, localized issues and global issues. These are things we will face. We absolutely will. But if we can plan ahead, if we can work together, if we can leverage our communities, we can keep our communities safe, and we can all be better off in a time of crisis. So what are you going to be working on this September? I hope you are taking the month of September to make some progress on your emergency plan. Like I said, the 5 fundamentals will be linked down below so that you can get started on these, and you can get started on some of the expanded ideas I've listed in this video. What would you add to my extra 4 considerations for the LGBTQIA community? I'd like to know what you would suggest that this community or any minority community works on to keep themselves more safe during times of crisis. Friends, I hope that you are all doing well. Don't forget to come and say hi to me over on Instagram. And as always, my dear friends, happy prepping.